You think Family Matters is just a fun sitcom from the 90s? The truth is, behind those laughs are lives that were framed, erased from Hollywood, even robbed of their futures. 30 years later, the truth behind that heartwarming sitcom is more shocking than any episode. Reginald VelJohnson as Carl Winslow. Reginald VelJohnson was born on August 16, 1952, in Queens, New York, and he was already 37 years old when Family Matters premiered in 1989. Far from a newcomer, but still searching for a role that would finally anchor his career. As Carl Winslow, the stern yet tender Chicago police officer, VelJohnson became one of the most recognizable TV fathers of the 1990s, embodying authority, vulnerability, and quiet dignity rarely afforded to black male characters at the time. At its peak, Family Matters turned Carl into a household name. Yet as Steve Urkel's popularity exploded, the show slowly shifted away from the Winslow family dynamic that VelJohnson had helped define. Behind the scenes, he carried the weight of being the emotional backbone of a series that was no longer truly about him. After the series ended in 1998, VelJohnson worked steadily but quietly, appearing in guest roles across television. Despite his iconic status, major leading roles never came. The industry's unspoken rule was clear. Sitcom dads aged fast, and few were invited into second acts. As years passed, he withdrew from the spotlight, choosing consistency over reinvention, stability over spectacle. In 2026, Reginald VelJohnson is 73 years old. He remains deeply respected by fans, yet largely absent from Hollywood's center stage. The man who once symbolized strength and protection for an entire generation now lives privately, a reminder that even the most beloved TV fathers often fade quietly, carrying their legacy alone once the laughter stops. Marie Payton as Harriet Winslow. Born on August 3, 1950 in Albany, Georgia, Marie Payton was already a seasoned performer when she stepped into the role of Harriet Winslow in Family Matters in 1989. At 39 years old, she became the sharp-tongued, no-nonsense matriarch who grounded the Winslow household. As the series grew more popular, Payton's presence helped balance the chaos brought by Steve Urkel's rising dominance. Yet behind the scenes, tensions slowly surfaced. Creative disagreements and growing frustration over the show's shifting focus reportedly took a toll on her emotionally and professionally. By the 8th season, Payton made the difficult decision to leave the series, a quiet exit that shocked audiences and fractured the heart of the Winslow family on screen. After her departure, Family Matters attempted to move forward by recasting Harriet, but the emotional chemistry was never the same. Payton, meanwhile, struggled to reclaim her footing in an industry that often sidelines women once they pass a certain age. Though she continued working, notably as the voice of Sugar Mama on The Proud Family, she never again found a role that matched the cultural weight of Harriet Winslow. As of 2026, Marie Payton is 75 years old. She lives a quieter life away from the spotlight, making occasional public appearances and focusing on personal projects. Darius McCrary as Eddie Winslow. Darius McCrary was born on May 1, 1976 in Walnut, California, and he was just 13 years old when he joined Family Matters in 1989 as Eddie Winslow, the handsome, athletic eldest son who quickly became a teen idol for young black audiences across America. But as the series ended in 1998, McCrary's transition into adulthood proved painfully unstable. Acting opportunities faded, finances became erratic, and his personal life began unraveling in public view. Over the years, reports of domestic conflict, substance-related concerns, and mounting child support disputes steadily replaced headlines about his work. His legal troubles escalated dramatically in the 2000s. In 2015, McCrary was briefly jailed for failing to pay child support before securing release by settling overdue payments. By 2019, Courts ordered him to attend substance abuse and domestic violence intervention programs, submit to drug testing, and complete co-parenting classes in order to regain visitation rights with his young daughter, amid stated concerns for her safety. Later arrests followed for felony non-payment of child support, with unpaid balances exceeding tens of thousands of dollars, placing him under increasing legal scrutiny. In 2025, McCrary's downward spiral reached its most serious point when he was arrested near the U.S.-Mexico border under an out-of-state warrant and held without bail as a fugitive from justice. Deemed a flight risk, he was ordered extradited to Michigan, later entering a no-contest plea related to absconding before being released from custody. Once a symbol of youthful promise, Darius McCrary's life now stands as one of Family Matters' darkest cautionary tales, a stark reminder of how fame can vanish while consequences remain. Kellie Shanygne Williams as Laura Winslow. Born on March 22, 1978 in Washington, D.C., Kellie Shanygne Williams was only 11 years old when she joined Family Matters in 1989 as Laura Winslow, the intelligent, poised middle child who quietly became one of television's most positive representations of young black womanhood. Throughout the series' 9-season run, Williams grew up in front of the camera with remarkable stability. While many child stars struggled with fame, she avoided tabloid controversy and maintained a disciplined focus on education and personal growth. Yet as Family Matters ended, she made a choice that surprised many. Instead of chasing Hollywood momentum, Williams deliberately stepped away from mainstream acting at the height of her recognition. Her departure was not marked by scandal, but by silence. Rather than fight an industry resistant to complexity, Williams redirected her energy toward education, youth mentoring, and later nonprofit work, choosing purpose over visibility. In 2026, Kellie Shanygne Williams is 48 years old. Married with children, she lives a life far removed from the spotlight, occasionally appearing at fan conventions but otherwise maintaining privacy. Telma Hopkins as Rachel Crawford. Telma Hopkins, born on October 28, 1948, in Louisville, Kentucky, and she was already in her early 40s when she joined Family Matters as Rachel Crawford, the stylish, flirtatious cousin whose confidence and modern attitude brought a fresh energy to the Winslow household. As Family Matters increasingly centered its attention on Steve Urkel's antics, Rachel's role was gradually reduced, her storylines thinning until she faded into the background. When the series ended in 1998, Hopkins found herself without a clear path forward, her sitcom visibility failing to translate into sustained momentum. Despite a long resume that included earlier success on Bosom Buddies and Gimme a Break, Hollywood proved reluctant to reinvest in her as a leading figure. Offers became sporadic, often limited to brief guest appearances or minor roles that lacked depth. The industry that once embraced her charm seemed content to let her legacy rest in reruns. By 2026, Telma Hopkins is 76 years old. She remains active only in small, occasional projects, her name fondly remembered but rarely seen on screen. Cherie Johnson as Maxine Johnson. Born on November 21, 1975 in Palo Alto, California, Cherie Johnson was still a teenager when she appeared on Family Matters as Maxine Johnson, Laura Winslow's sharp-witted best friend, whose confidence and attitude made her instantly memorable. Audiences embraced Johnson's natural charisma, yet her popularity never translated into lasting opportunity. As Family Matters ended, Hollywood failed to expand her range beyond supporting roles, and she found herself trapped between recognition and invisibility. Casting doors closed quietly, not with rejection, but with indifference. A common fate for actresses whose faces were familiar but never deemed bankable. Rather than chase an industry that had stopped calling, Johnson made a strategic pivot. She stepped behind the camera, focusing on writing and producing, determined to control her own narrative rather than wait for permission to be cast. Over time, she built a steady career in television development, contributing to projects such as The Proud Family, and later working as a producer on Punk'd, reshaping stories instead of merely appearing in them. In 2026, Cherie Johnson is 50 years old. Rarely seen on screen, she remains quietly influential in the background of television production. Bryton James as Richie Crawford. Born on October 17, 1986, in Lakewood, California, Bryton James was barely 5 years old when he joined Family Matters in 1991 as Richie Crawford, the bright, curious young cousin whose intelligence and sweetness made him one of the show's most endearing child characters. Yet Bryton's time on the series was brief. He exited Family Matters while still very young, disappearing from the sitcom spotlight before audiences could watch him grow up on screen. As he entered adulthood, fame did not follow him automatically, and his personal life began to draw more attention than his early acting success, including a short-lived marriage in the early 2000s that ended quickly and publicly. Rather than chase nostalgia, Bryton James rebuilt his career slowly and deliberately. He found long-term stability not in primetime sitcoms, but in serialized drama, joining The Young and the Restless as Devin Hamilton, a role he has played for years, earning industry respect and awards recognition. Alongside this, he expanded into voice acting, lending his voice to animated projects that allowed him to work without the glare of celebrity culture. Now in 2026, Bryton James is 38 years old, living a private life while sustaining a steady acting career, having built a second act defined not by childhood fame, but by quiet longevity in the industry. Jaimee Foxworth as Judy Winslow. Jaimee Foxworth, born on December 17, 1979, in Belleville, Illinois. She was only 9 years old when she joined Family Matters as Judy Winslow, the youngest daughter of the Winslow family, wide-eyed, cheerful, and very much part of the show's original emotional core. In the early seasons, Judy embodied innocence, completing the image of a warm, intact television family. Then, without warning, she was gone. As the series evolved, Judy was quietly written out of the show, her character disappearing without explanation and never mentioned again. For a child actress, the sudden erasure was devastating. Foxworth later spoke openly about the confusion and emotional damage caused by being removed from a hit series at such a formative age, a rejection she did not yet have the tools to understand. As she grew older, the fallout became personal and public. Foxworth struggled with depression and substance abuse, turning to marijuana as a coping mechanism during years marked by financial instability and identity loss. Her life became a cautionary example of what can happen when child stars are discarded without support. In 2009, her story was revisited on the television series Life After, where Foxworth candidly discussed her addiction, her exit from Family Matters, and her efforts to reclaim control of her life. She stated that she had stopped using drugs and was focused on recovery. In 2026, Jaimee Foxworth is 46 years old, still navigating the long road toward stability. Her journey remains one of the most unsettling legacies of Family Matters, not because of scandal, but because of silence. Judy Winslow wasn't written off with drama or closure. She was erased, and the consequences followed her far beyond the sitcom stage. Michelle Thomas as Myra Monkhouse. Michelle Thomas was born on September 23, 1968, in Boston, Massachusetts, and she was in her early 20s when she joined Family Matters as Myra Monkhouse, Steve Urkel's fiercely devoted, high-energy girlfriend whose confidence and comic timing brought a fresh spark to the series. Behind the scenes, Thomas was carving out a promising career. She appeared across popular television throughout the 1990s, her charisma suggesting a future far beyond sitcom side roles. But in August 1997, her life took a devastating turn when she was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive cancer, desmoplastic small round cell tumor, a disease so uncommon that treatment options were limited and outcomes uncertain. Despite intensive medical care, Thomas's condition worsened rapidly. As her health declined, her career was forced to stop abruptly, cutting short what many believed was only the beginning of her ascent. On December 23, 1998, Michelle Thomas passed away in New York City at just 30 years old due to complications from the disease. Her death sent ripples through the Family Matters cast and fans alike. Jaleel White as Steve Urkel. Jaleel White, born on November 27, 1976, in Culver City, California, and he was just 12 years old when he first appeared on Family Matters in 1989 as Steve Urkel, a character intended for a single guest appearance that instead detonated into one of the most recognizable pop culture icons of all time. As Urkel's popularity exploded globally, Family Matters transformed from a family sitcom into an Urkel-centric phenomenon. White worked relentlessly, often portraying multiple versions of the character, enduring punishing schedules that blurred the line between actor and role. While millions laughed, White was quietly losing ownership of his own identity, forever frozen in a persona he did not create to last. When the show ended in 1998, the backlash was immediate and cruel. Casting directors could see only Urkel, regardless of White's range or ambition. Attempts to pivot into dramatic or mature roles stalled, and the industry that once celebrated him now struggled to imagine him as anything else. As of 2026, 49-year-old Jaleel White remains financially successful and creatively active, balancing voice acting, business ventures, and public appearances, even as the legacy of Steve Urkel continues to define his public identity. 35 years later, Family Matters still feels like comfort television, but the lives behind the laughter tell a far more fragile story. Some found peace, others vanished, and a few paid a devastating price for early fame and sudden silence. Which journey stayed with you the longest? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, comment, and follow as we continue uncovering the untold stories behind television's most beloved families.